Hi everyone. Sorry I haven't made a video in a really long time. I had a lot going on mentally in the sense that I kind of felt like I've made quite a few videos which I haven't posted. A big issue for me was that in Jan is always a really hard time for me. So yeah, I'll just say it. So in Jan I lost my dad, and every year during January it's a very hard time for me. So it's always during December to Jan where things are hard, and my way of like handling it this time, which does tend to happen, it just kind of went on for a bit longer, was the fact that I was avoiding God. So because of that I felt like I was having imposter syndrome with making this video, because like all my videos, because it's like, why should I preach if I'm not so strong in my faith? So I kind of wanted to get my act together before making a video in helping other people. And I think I have had God like constantly remind me to make one. It's just that I have never been happy with it. Maybe that's just like my way of like avoiding it, I'm not sure, but I wanted to try and make this one with a clear structure so that I can post it. So okay, yeah, my number one thing was the fact that I was avoiding God. So what was my issue? Every year I kind of go through this, but I kind of realized that, I have always thanked God for being there for me, and my faith is where it's at because of what I've been through. But the other thing is, I always question why things had to be that way. I'm not really going to go into depth on what I've had to experience, but especially with my dad, the main thing is I question why he had to go. But I also know why he did. So it's kind of like, it was good for him and it was good for us, like my brother and I, in building our faith. But it was also very difficult for us, and it still is difficult for me, right? I was 14 when I lost my dad, and it's been 6 years now. So yeah, it's kind of hard for me to address it head on sometimes. I think it kind of depends on the year, but I think the fact that it had hit 6 years for me was really difficult, because it's like, I guess I kind of assumed that the rapture or the second coming of Christ would happen by now. So I think that was the issue for me. I was like, why am I still here? So yeah, I kind of avoided God. Not because I was upset, but I also was avoiding him because I didn't want to show that I was upset with him. And there were times when I did address it, but then it was kind of like I would only do like maybe like 50% of it, and then for the next 3 weeks I'd slowly go back to avoiding God a bit. And it's really difficult when you have a set structure in worshiping God. But the thing is, there's a very blurry line at a point when you kind of like merge that relationship versus religion type of thing. So for me, it was very normal for me to read and pray every morning and every night. But am I connecting with God? Am I truly talking to him and spending time with him, or am I doing it for the sake of doing it? And for a lot of the time this year, it kind of felt like I was doing it for the sake of, but I also was telling myself that something is better than nothing, because if I don't do it, that's far worse. So it's very difficult for me to explain how it was going on mentally, but it was like I kind of just felt stagnant in my faith. I wasn't really I wasn't really having much progress, but I also was kind of falling behind, but giving myself the illusion that I wasn't. It's very difficult because I was kind of like fooling myself into whatever I was doing, and I was aware of that. So that was the issue. It's like I'm partly aware of it because I'm having conviction, but it's also like the main issue was that I just needed to address it. So I think it's kind of been like a little bit of progress with God each time, which is very different for me, because every other time, like in the last few years, I just needed to have like one sit down conversation with God, and then it'd be fine. I'd literally be fine the next day. But for me, it was like, no matter how much I did it this time, it's only been like temporary, which I kind of realized is a thing that happens when you grow spiritually. Because when I first started in my faith, if I read one chapter of the Bible for the week, I would be like fully charged. But then it kind of got to the point that, okay, if I read properly every day, but let's say I have like one really good week of Bible study, or one really good week of spending time with God, or, like 3 days of spending time with God for that day, I'd be set for months. It kind of started having like a diminishing effect where the more I matured, the more I have to do to try and feel that like fire for God. So that was, I think, my lesson was that I shouldn't base my relationship with God just off a feeling. So just because I'm not feeling that fire, that doesn't mean that I should exactly distance myself, or even like guilt trip myself for not feeling that way. Because as long as I know that I'm actually connecting with God and doing everything for Him, that's what matters. And having that relationship, so because like our feelings can be deceiving, right? So yeah, it's like, I think there's a very like blurry area with like your feelings telling you that you're doing something right. Then your feelings can also deceive you into thinking you're doing something right when you're not doing something right. And it can also be the other way around. So yeah, that was pretty much my issue. I was kind of trying to figure out what exactly I was doing, how I was doing everything, and whether or not I'm like lying to myself and to God. But I think the main thing is that the Holy Spirit was giving me conviction, and I was addressing it with God little by little. And that is why I didn't want to make a video, because it's like, while I was in that phase, obviously it's not that I lost faith in God, but it's kind of like it's in James, I think, where it says, like, even the demons believe and shudder, right? So just because the demons believe, it's your faith that matters. So that chapter where James talks about faith, is what really matters. So to me, the main issue is like, just because I know that Jesus is Lord, just because I know that Jesus is true and He died on the cross, took the penalty for our sins, rose again on the third day, me knowing it is not enough. Is He my Lord is the question, right? And yes, I can just proclaim that He's my God, but am I acting that way was also something that I was trying to like discover, like trying to bring it out, because I would rather be honest with myself and actually know the truth than kind of just like deceive myself into thinking that I'm doing fine. And the thing is, like, it was kind of like subconscious, so it was really difficult for me to like figure it out. And the reason I'm talking about this is so that if anyone else can relate, it's that's the whole purpose of this. It's so that if anyone relates, they kind of know that that you're not alone. And what you have to do is keep praying, keep reading your Bible, and truly like sit down and connect with God instead of like treating it like a chore. Because I knew that the second I entered into that, it isn't supposed to be a chore. And I think within like a week or something of me doing it, maybe longer, I'm not really sure, but I been all over the place. And a couple of weeks ago, I truly sat down, and there's a really good video I watched, which I need to send. I'll probably put in the description. But as long as you calm yourself down. So there's this difference between meditation and praying or spending time with God, right? So meditation in Buddhism, or a lot of like Stoic, philosophical religions, philosophies, when you think about meditation, for them, it's all about emptying yourself. I feel like I must have mentioned this before in another video of mine, but meditation is when you empty yourself. Like, And the whole point in Buddhism, at least the South Asian version, is, the issue is like someone might say that they disagree with me. There's different beliefs according to the person, but from what my friends have told me, this is what I gathered, which is if you separate yourself from everything, you're not going to suffer. So the root cause of suffering is attachment. And the whole goal in Buddhism, from my understanding, from what my friends have told me, is that you need to detach yourself from everything. So again, meditation is about emptying yourself. So mentally detaching yourself from everything in that moment. Now, the difference for us in Christianity is that we're supposed to be filling ourselves with God. So it's not about emptying yourself. It's the complete opposite, but with God. So not with, the things you need to do, or your worries, or your concerns, and all the things in your life or in this world right now. I mean, your spiritual stuff, like God, Jesus, and how you want to better yourself with Him and improve your relationship with Him. So I had a really good moment with God where I just prayed. I asked God to talk to me, and I was like breathing slowly, and I cleared my head of all the other things and just invited Christ, right? And that was such a meaningful moment to me, because it was like I finally felt at peace after so long. And I'm someone who really cares about my peace. So the reason I truly fell in love with Jesus was in the midst of my suffering and pain, I always felt that love, comfort, and most of all was peace. So I always felt peaceful when I was with God. And I think this issue with me feeling guilty towards Him was kind of disrupting my peace in a way. So, so even the other problem for me was that I kind of felt like the only way I could redeem myself was by making this video. But then also I kind of felt like an imposter by making a video, so I didn't want to make the video. But then I also thought that I could only redeem myself by making this video, which we're not justified by our works. So that was really silly of me. And I knew about it, but I didn't know it. But I thought that at that time, I needed to make a video, right? And at that time, God was telling me that it's obviously not the video that matters the most. Obviously, He cares about first me coming to Him and then me preaching the word to others. So He was telling me to prioritize Him first and to not worry about making a video, and that will come eventually. So today I was praying and I just thought, okay, I'll make it today. So yeah, if there's anything that's stopping you from talking to God, a lot of this is subconscious, so it's really hard to identify what exactly the root cause is. But when you sit down, you invite God, it will come out. And I feel like a lot of us know subconsciously what it is, or the Holy Spirit will give us conviction. So that was my issue. And also, I always had comfort. So yeah, after this encounter with God, I felt peace after a very long time, especially with something related to Him, because I was kind of disrupting my peace with Him on purpose. Like, it was my fault by thinking that I had to make this video, I had to do things, or I had to do works. But it's not that in my head I thought that I had to do works, it's just that I felt like I was doing nothing for God. And because I was doing nothing for God, I thought that I wasn't worth it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I realized that even though this year was really rough in my faith, God was always there for me. During my exams, honestly, university is the most stressful thing on my mind right now. And the issue was that, however, during the holidays, I still wasn't kind of fixing my faith. But it was also that I felt really burnt out and I was mentally exhausted. So it was very difficult for me to really know when feeling what was okay. So right now, I'm having my exam soon. It's in a couple of days. And I know that God is there for me. He has always been there for me. He's always been protecting me and ensuring that no matter what I do, his plans will succeed. So I kind of focus on that. And even now, there's a lot that God has done for me, and I kind of thought that I wouldn't get that from God because it was kind of like a punishment for myself. So my issue in general is self-worth, and that kind of like gets projected onto God in the sense that I think that because I don't see any worth in myself, how can God see any worth in me, kind of. It's a bit like fuzzy like that. So yeah, that's pretty much been my journey this year, and I'm really thankful to God for still being there for me and helping me through all of this and making everything work out according to his plan. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is how he's addressing Christianity, addressing our faith. It's kind of, it's been like this for a while, but especially now it's become really difficult to be a Christian because it's very controversial. Saying that you're a Christian alone is controversial. It kind of depends on who you're around and who you're with. So me being in a Western country right now, it's very mixed, I would say. Because it's a Christian country, there are a lot of Christians, but I would say there are a lot of Christians who kind of compromise on their values just so it doesn't seem controversial, which I think is a fine line. When I say this, I don't mean that people should think that like gay people deserve to be burnt or something. Do I think that homosexuality is a sin? Yes, I do think it's a sin. But do I think that all gay people deserve to die and go to hell? No, I don't think that. It's a sin. Like everything is a sin. Like to me, it's like fornication, sex outside of marriage. It's a sin. It's sexual immorality. Homosexuality also falls under that. But am I going to hate a gay person for being gay? No. Everything we do is supposed to be in love, right? Okay, views on abortion, for example. That's like a huge thing, right? Obviously, because of my faith, I do believe that it's a life inside the womb. But I would think that anyone who has a pro-life view should also be able to give policies that should support that. So it's not like, oh, just be pro-life and stop it there. I would say that all the governments, or for any like political party that says that they should, that they're pro-life, are they doing anything to encourage people to be pro-life? That's a very big question mark. Like if I was one of them, what I would do is, like increase funding for orphanages, increase subsidies for mothers who actually want to keep a child, make it illegal for the father to leave the child. And if they don't know the father, or if the father passed away or something, some sort of compensation, there has to be. So instead of putting all that money into like abortion clinics, I would rather propose that that money goes into supporting families that actually keep the child. So that would be my view. It's like, I mean it in the sense of just having a rational view. Again, a lot of people would cancel me for this, but this is like, these are my values. I believe that, Jesus says, like when we were formed in his womb, he knew us, right? God knew us, that because he knitted us in our mother's wombs. So naturally it is a life. My thing is, okay, if you, I think this is a common argument that people have made, but if you kill a pregnant woman, you get charged with double homicide. The other thing is, if someone has a miscarriage, for them it's that they lost a baby. They're not going to be like, oh, I lost a clump of cells, I lost my child. That is what happens, and my heart goes out to everyone and anyone who suffered miscarriages. When someone goes through that, they think that it was a child. It is a baby. It's not just a clump of cells. So I think using those terms kind of dehumanize the fact that it is a baby. And how is it that when someone has a miscarriage, or if they lose their child while they're pregnant, they lost their baby, but if someone doesn't want that child, it's a clump of cells. So I don't think your value should come based on whether or not the mother wants you, because I think that's very subjective. I've also seen a very common argument on if someone wants to, well, a lot of pro-choice people will say if someone wants to have an abortion, that's better, because if they want to kill their baby now, why would they be a good parent? So it's a sign that they would be a bad parent, so they should never have the child to begin with. I understand what people are saying by that, but then again, you also, I mean, you are accepting the fact that it is a baby, but then I guess that's probably an argument that they're saying as a counter to, everyone saying it is a life. But I would say build up orphanages, or make adoption and all that a lot easier, because there's a lot of families who want kids. So I think a lot of those are kind of like my views. But again, my value is that if God makes it very clear that that is a life, it is a life. And I mean, scientifically, a lot of people can show that it is one, but I still need to educate myself on a lot more regarding that. But yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I didn't really mean to go in to a political side. I kind of just meant that our values should not be swayed just by public opinion, and the main thing is to do it with love. So there is no point in people saying all of these things in a hateful manner and then saying that it is in the name of Christianity. If you're going to say something, especially that is against public approval, if you're going to do it in a hateful manner, you're only going to make it harder for yourself. So what I really like about the people around me is that even though we disagree on certain things, we keep an open mind in listening to them, understanding why it's like that, and respecting everyone's opinions. So that is one thing that I wanted to talk about. I think a lot of us should educate ourselves more. There should be a reason as to why you have that view. So and it's I'm not saying anyone who's watching this should have the exact view that I'm having. That is my view as a Christian. I believe that that's where my values stand, right? The other issue is that a lot of people are very scared to address the fact that they're Christian. It doesn't promise us a good time in this life. He promises us persecution. He says that we will be hated for his name's sake. We're not greater than our master. So if he was killed for being God, who was so perfect, then obviously we're also going to be persecuted. So my big issue is that a lot of people just base things off of the US. So how a lot of people will say that Christianity is a white man's religion, but it's not. It literally started from the Middle East. It's from Israel. Jesus was a Jew. So I don't know where that comes from. And the main thing is that privileged, conservative people are Christians, which is not true, right? Just because a lot of Christians are very loud in the US and some Christians are very hateful and vocal about their views. I've spoken about this before. I really dislike it when someone lives the most sinful life and does not care about God in any way whatsoever, and they commit every single sin known to man, and then they end up saying that they're homophobic because they're Christian. Because there's no fruit of theirs, there's no desire in their heart to know God, and then they use that line. To me, that's just I feel like that's so absurd, and that you're truly using God's name in vain. And there's a huge consequence for taking the name of a Christian without actually representing Christ. The whole point of Christian means follower of Christ, right? There's a whole Jesus did not come to start a religion. That's the reason why a lot of Jews who ended up following Christ are called Messianic Jews. In Acts, it kind of mentions we're only in one region. We were in all the followers of Christ were called Christians, and that just ended up being the common name. And to be a Christian means to take the name of Christ and to represent Christ. Naturally, all of us are fallen, so we will all have our issues, we will all have our sins that we're struggling with. but God looks at the heart. And as long as we are aspiring to reach that level of perfection with God, as long as we are aspiring to reach that level of being Christ-like, that is what matters, right? And to me, the issue is that when a lot of people don't really care, if I ask them, what they think about God or Jesus, and they just say that they don't care and they don't believe in it, and then to say that they have that view because they're Christian, that's just absurd to me, right? But anyway, back to the whole point of, the West suddenly, setting an image for all Christians, and everyone saying that that's what all Christians are, privileged. That's a complete lie. Christians are persecuted all over the world. They are the most persecuted religion by number, and the amount of things that Christians go through is absolutely absurd, right? The torture and the pain the majority of Christians go through just for being Christian it's ridiculous, right? And it's like, at least in Christian countries, there's a big concept of free will. God has given us free will, and that's why in a lot of Christian countries you have the freedom to practice any religion. You can't say that in a lot of countries. In a lot of authoritarian states, to believe in Christianity, to believe in God, to follow Christianity and to believe in Christ, it's illegal. It's punishable by death, right? I can go in to many countries where there's an issue. So next year I'm going to be doing a thesis on Christian persecution. So even now I've been doing a lot of research, and the main issue is that a lot of these states will say that there is no Christian conflict, right? There's no issues with Christian. So a lot of these countries will try to hide it. But if you look at the data, if you look at what people say, and if you actually run proper tests, you will see that there is a religious conflict. Churches are burned, babies are killed. The amount of terrorist organizations that have the agenda to kill Christians is insane, and people don't talk about it, right? If you look at Muslim countries that are heavy Muslim countries, like where they are very strong in implementing Sharia law. So for example, Pakistan, it makes it illegal to leave Islam. So if you are an apostate, it is punishable by death. And to follow Christianity is Shirk. In Islam, it's Shirk, because to them, if you believe in the Trinity, you're committing, you are a polytheist, because the Trinity to them means you're worshipping three gods. And to follow Christianity is to commit Shirk, which is the unforgivable sin, right? The highest level of sin. So do a lot of people know about the persecuted church? No, I would say it's becoming a lot more, there's a lot more coverage on it because of Trump's thing on Nigeria being listed as a country of particular concern. Bloomberg and a lot of news articles are saying that, what I just said, that the Nigerian government said it's not true. Again, they're just saying that to avoid sanctions and having other economic issues. It's not the fact that it's not Christian persecution. So Nigeria is also a country that's Muslim dominant. There's other countries which are just not Muslim. So North Korea, Vietnam, I'm not too sure on Vietnam. I need to look into it more. But they don't like Christians because what my Viet friend told me was that Christians like to preach God, which is an issue. A lot of dictatorial countries, so authoritarian countries like North Korea, which, if I'm not mistaken, is also the same issue. And China. Those countries don't like having Christians. Also, Muslims are persecuted in those countries too, because if you worship a god, that's a big issue, because they want the government to be viewed as the highest role of authority, right? So when you have a god, you will defy the government in the sense that you will not treat it as absolute infallible word that they tell you, right? If you have a god and you worship that god, and what you believe in disagrees or doesn't align with the government, that's an issue. So Christians or any other religion is a threat to those countries. Yeah, so again, the whole point is Christians aren't privileged. Christians go through a lot. It is very ignorant to say that Christians are privileged and that they aren't going through any persecution. We as Christians should be really blessed, and anyone who isn't should also realize how blessed you are to have the beliefs that you have right now, because that is a cause that a lot of countries will not offer. If you even plan to go against the government, you are killed, right? There's a lot of countries where freedom is a very big issue, and too many people are focused on what's going on in the West to actually understand that a lot of these countries are going through so much more than we realize. And I myself don't really know much on as much as I would like to know. My other issue is that I just kind of forget, so I need to make sure that I remember a lot of those things. Afghanistan is another issue. The way they treat women is absolutely insane. So yeah, there's a lot of things where people don't realize how blessed they are, people don't realize how privileged they are, and it's absolutely ridiculous and ignorant to say that Christians aren't persecuted, because you are literally talking about the most persecuted group by number. So that statistic, it is arguable in the sense of proportion, because there are a lot of Christians in the world, but by number, Christians are the most persecuted. So yeah, we are promised that this is what our life will be like. Those of us who aren't going through any sort of persecution, in the sense I haven't really gone through much persecution. There's the only thing I would say was that during Easter there were bombings in churches in my country. But I was not affected, so I will always be blessed I will always appreciate the fact that I was blessed by that. And yeah, the main point is to proclaim your faith, because again, don't think that you're gonna have a really simple life, especially now. You can see over the years there's been a rise in hatred towards Christianity. So we have to be strong in our faith now, but again, to do it with love, because there's no point with fighting with an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth. Jesus has told us to do it with love, but again, not in the sense where you're people pleasing, not in the sense where you're not staying true to your faith. Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, not the peacekeepers. So we're not to be people pleasing in that sense. We are to make peace. The main thing I would say is that we should make sure to know where exactly to draw the line. For me, I draw the line at the point where I'm not compromising any value or saying any heresy according to the Bible. I will be very understanding towards people, and I will tell them that I understand why they think that way, but this is why I think this way. And even though I disagree with them, that doesn't mean that I'm going to cancel them. And I've actually found that a lot of people have come to understand my side just by doing that. James tells us, be quick to hear and slow to speak, because we should always listen to what other people say. What I mean is that you should always be willing to communicate and willing to preach, and always have a defense for your faith. So 1 Peter chapter 3 tells us to always have a defense for our faith that is in us, to do it with gentleness and love. So that's the main thing that we should always remember when we proclaim our faith. There's no point in being hateful. There's no point in being aggressive. It's all about doing things with love. There's no point in getting angry. And if you don't see a common ground with someone, this is what my Bible study teacher has always told me, just tell them, we're not getting anywhere. If you want to know more about God and Jesus and the Bible, you can always talk to me. And when they're actually willing to have a peaceful conversation with you, go ahead with it. If someone is just going to argue with you for the sake of arguing, don't even bother. What I would do is I would try for a couple of minutes. If I see it's not going anywhere, I'll just pray, and then I'll tell them that bit, and then I'll pray to God, and I'll say that if they really were to know Christ, if they really want to know Christ, and it's part of His will for them to have a gentle heart with me on that. So I hope that I was able to give some good advice on what I spoke about. But yeah, I'll try to make another video soon, and thank you for anyone who's listened for this whole to this whole point. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye. God bless you.